Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Farzy Show. How you doing? My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show, presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Hope you guys just had a wonderful Tuesday night. Here's what you got going on. The Phillies are in the playoffs right now. If the season ended today, the Philadelphia Phillies are in the playoffs. How about that? We got to talk about the Kyle Schwarber character. Kyle Schwarber had some fun. He had some fun with the naysayers. I mean, is it even fair to call them naysayers at this point, or are we just kind of reporting the news? To say that Kyle Schwarber has not been a very good left fielder, really not much close to it, is an accurate statement. But yet, he made the play of the night defensively for the Philadelphia Phillies last night, and it helped keep a no-hit bid alive until the next batter, where it wasn't alive anymore. It died a horrible death in that fifth inning, unfortunately, for Aaron Nola and the Fightins. But the Phillies got the win. Now they're in the playoffs. That's fun. If the season ends today, let me throw that around. And then we're also going to get into this little conversation today. Oh, and Kyle Schwarber also happens to be on a tear from the plate. We'll get into this conversation. Daryl Morey was on with my old buddy Anthony Gargano yesterday. And Daryl Morey got into the conversation, of course, about James Harden, what the future holds for the Sixers, and James Harden. He also got into who else could start in James Harden's place as of right now. And he also talked about Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid and the idea that he does want to win here in Philadelphia. Oh, gee, thanks for the damage control there, Mr. Morey. Much appreciated. I love that, just a little talk, a little Q&A. And it is a little Q&A for a film festival, whatever, prompts the general manager, the president of basketball operations, I should say, of the 76ers to do a expedited interview on their flagship radio station. What a world we live in. But I'm happy. I'm happy to hear from any general manager or the president of whatever team's operations. I'm happy to hear from them about the inner workings of the team and hear what they're thinking. What is their line of thinking? Albeit, a nice little coating of BS along the way, as we all know. But nonetheless, we'll go through Daryl Morey's comments. And then Jalen Hurts, I know I'm asking a predominantly Philadelphia audience. I know there's a few people in Serbia that watch us, however, or listen to us on the podcast. But ladies and gentlemen, with Jalen Hurts, why the disrespect? Why? I've talked about this before. He just got ranked 6th by an ESPN poll that was with NFL executives, coaches, all that stuff. And he got ranked as the 6th best quarterback in the NFL. The 6th best quarterback in the NFL. I think if the only counter argument to how great you are is that you have to do it more often, I think that's pretty weak. And I understand that a lot of quarterbacks haven't, tested or withstood the test of time, even a brief amount of time. Carson Wentz jumps to mind when I think of that. But what Jalen Hurts did in his leap from year 1 to year 2 was spectacular. And in year 1, let's not forget, it wasn't like it was, some 4-win Eagles team. They were a playoff. They made the play. They got bounced out against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. It wasn't like his first year as a starter was god-awful. But, man, I feel like he is getting so much disrespect around the NFL. And I think it's for some reason. He hasn't done it long enough. And he can't control not doing it long enough. He can't control the fact that when he was drafted, he was going to be a backup for that entire first year before things really hit the fan with Carson Wentz, and then Jalen Hurts came in to start the last couple games of that season. He can't help the fact that it's not his 4th year in the league as a starter. He can't help that. But when your only counter argument to how great he is, well, he hasn't done it for long enough. Okay, well, then just be patient. And I really do feel like that's the only way people can possibly rank him out of the top 3 in the NFL. And I've said it before, and this isn't a spoiler, I think he's the 2nd best quarterback in the league. I think the only guy that is better is Patrick Mahomes. All right? So, yeah, until he could, really pass Patrick Mahomes, I'm not going to put him as number 1. But based on what I saw last year, based on what I saw the season before that, and based off the work ethic, based off the determination, and as Jeffrey Lurie put it, the dedication to excellence, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say he's going to be right around there after this year as well. And then that's another year where the naysayers can go, well, he did, I said do it again, and he did it again. So I guess all right, do it again. And then again after that, and then again after that. but I'm just tired of the disrespect to Jalen Hurts because I think he is worth every ounce of adulation that he has received from people that know better. And if the only knock on him is that he hasn't done it for long enough, okay, well, then you just sit back and you watch the show, brother. You watch the show. We'll get into that conversation. And plus, I haven't really watched this show, Quarterbacks on Netflix, but now I'm going to start watching it. Because Patrick Mahomes said something at the Super Bowl during media night to Jalen Hurts that has it's gone viral. And we'll get into that conversation coming up on the show today. Thanks for joining us. Let's get into it. Philadelphia Phillies, ladies and gentlemen, have won 4 in a row. Let's take a gander at the most recent standings after Arizona. Lost a tough one. Phillies, of course, won. Marlins lost. Thank you, Nolan Arenado. Thank you to our loyal listener and viewer, Ari Stein. To your St. Louis Cardinals, the Marlins lost. Nolan Arenado with a nice big old hit last night. And then the Marlins lost. So this means the Phillies are not only ahead of the Marlins in the wild card standings, the Phillies are in second place in the NL East. I don't like celebrating second place, but when you haven't seen that spot for a minute, I'm going to go ahead and celebrate it. So the Phillies right now in the playoffs, beautiful sight to see. Let's get into this game. Aaron Nola was pitching a gem, and I am not taking anything away from Aaron Nola. I am a supporter of Aaron Nola. I feel like I'm one of the last remaining people to refer to him as an ace, although he is not at all having an ace year. All right. But Aaron Nola last night, going into the game, was supposed to dominate this team. Now, here's what I mean by that. And I'm not taking anything away. I'm very happy with the start. 2 earned runs, 7 in the third, 6 strikeouts, didn't walk a guy. Beautiful. Aaron Nola last night was going in against a team in the Milwaukee Brewers, so I knew we were on a little bit of a run as a team, and that's nice. But he was facing another bottom 5 offense in Major League Baseball. The last time he faced a bottom 5 offense in Major League Baseball, it was the Detroit Tigers, and he only took a no-hitter into the 7th inning. All right. Now he goes up against a bottom 5 team in the Milwaukee Brewers. And he takes a no-hitter into the 5th inning. And if you would have told me that in that 5th inning, 3 guys that were going to get hit baseballs, Kyle Schwarber being one of them, Brandon Marsh being another one, if you would have told me that the guy that was going to make the best play to preserve a no-hitter was going to be Kyle Schwarber, I would have said, you're crazy. But it wasn't. Kyle Schwarber made the play of the inning. And at that point, I went, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Every single no-hitter, perfect game, whatever you can think about, has that, like, spectacular play. The one that really jumps to mind is Carlos Ruiz for Roy Halladay against the Reds in the postseason, where that little dribbler was hit in front of home plate. And Chooch had to avoid the runner, the bat, and get on his knees and throw out. Was it Brandon Phillips for the final out? And no hitter there for Roy Halladay. Spectacular play. Was it Dwayne Wise for Mark Burley's? No. Off the bat of Gabe Kapler, if I'm not mistaken. The weird play by Odubel Herrera in center field where he just misjudged the hell out of that for Cole Hamels in Chicago. And then in the 5th inning, you look through a game that's going to be a no-hitter or a perfect game, whatever, and you look through like these great plays defensively. And I would have never thought it was Kyle Schwarber, but he read the play beautifully. Goes back to the wall, leaps, and makes the catch to preserve the no-no for Aaron Nola. But then, unfortunately, as the game goes on, as the inning goes on, oh, boy. It just wasn't meant to be. I don't know what Brandon Marsh was doing on that particular play. I know it's a tough hit ball, but Brandon Marsh, I think, is a good enough center fielder to make a play on it. The way the inning went, Winker stepped up to the plate, grounded out Derek Hall at first base on a 3-pitch at bat. So Nola continues to cruise. Then off the bat of Milner, that's where Kyle Schwarber makes the leaping grab at the wall. Then Tapia goes up there. He gets the infield single. Trey Turner, I don't know if he just had trouble making it out of his mid, if he took a bad route to the ball. I know Tapia can run, and he beat the throw to first base. So that was the first hit of the ball game. Then Monasterio goes up there. Tapia steals second base. And then Monasterio hits the ball to center field that Brandon Marsh just couldn't track properly. They end up scoring a run on it. Terang gets up there. He gets another infield single. He got dinked and dunked a little bit. Hall wasn't able to handle Stott's throw. that would have been able to get out of that inning, and unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be. They scored 2 runs in the inning. It goes from a 3-0 ball game to a 3-2 ball game. But offense strikes again for the Phillies at the bottom of the 5th inning. Bryson Stott got to the RBI single. You go up 4-2 at that point, and that was all the offense you would need for the rest of the ball game. But Nola to that 5th inning, and really even after that 5th inning, the knuckle curve, great precision on the knuckle curve. The velocity and life on his fastball was at a high for the season. 94, 95 miles per hour with consistency. A word that has really evaded Aaron Nola when it comes to consistent good pitching from him throughout a game or even back-to-back starts, obviously. And last night he went out there and had that precision. He had that ace quality stuff. Now, the last time he faced a team that had this bad an offense, we mentioned it, the Detroit Tigers, excuse me. Last night he was facing another bottom-tier team, but he took advantage of it. He did what he was supposed to do. And some luck on his side last night, other than Kyle Schwarber making the play of, by far, his best play as an outfielder this season, and probably his best play as an outfielder in his tenure at the Phillies. But he goes up last night, Aaron Nola. There's a couple of bounces that don't go his way. The Trey Turner play that could have preserved the no-hitter as well didn't go his way. Bryson Stott trying to make a play on the ball that Derek Hall couldn't handle there at first base. It was a rough go in that 5th inning. Up until then, he shut down 14 batters. Then he had a little spurt there in the 5th inning. Then he shuts down the next 7 batters that he faces, and he goes on to pitch into the 8th inning. This was one of his best starts of the season. The question is whether or not Aaron Nola is going to be able to have this in back-to-back starts. Now, can he use, and he did pitch a bullpen session during the All-Star break to stay loose, try to stay, regulated in some way, shape, or form. But if you can keep this version of Aaron Nola for the rest of the year, then forget about just being in the playoffs if the season ended today, and you can start talking about being in the playoffs. Because this is the brand of baseball you need from Aaron Nola going forward. And you know what? Seeing a team like this, the Milwaukee Brewers, right out of the gate for Aaron Nola to start off his post-All-Star break push might be exactly what the doctor ordered, especially when you go on to face more talented teams, especially when you go on to face teams within your own division, when you see the Braves again, when you see the Marlins again, when you see even the Nationals again, who could be a thorn in the Phillies' side, as we unfortunately have come to discover this year. If you can continue to get this brand of baseball from Aaron Nola, you're going to be sitting pretty. You got the Orioles on the docket as well, a team that is fighting for first place in the AL East. Phillies took it to the Rays for 3 straight games. Hopefully they're able to do that against the O's for 3 straight games. Another team out of the AL East there. But this is what you need from Aaron Nola. The knuckle curve dropping in beautifully. The changeup he had working in that 2nd inning in particular, that had guys just tremendously off balance, flailing at that ball. That was a great thing to see from Aaron Nola last night. Whether it was the 2-seamer cutting in on guys or cutting away from guys, whether it was that knuckle, whether it was the changeup, he just had things working for him. And that's what you got to see from Aaron Nola. So hopefully that All-Star break was exactly what the doctor ordered in terms of Aaron Nola settling in, and now he's got a nice building block. Now he's got the first brick laid for the post-All-Star push. It's a nice thing to build on. Hopefully in 5 days, we'll see Aaron Nola do something very similar. We'll keep our fingers crossed for that. Offensively speaking, 3 guys I think need to get shout-outs. This is incredible. All right? Nick Castellanos, JT Realmuto, and Derek Hall. Nick Castellanos entered play yesterday, hitting .212 in his last 30 games. 30 days. In his last 2 weeks, he was batting below 100, .098. Nick Castellanos comes up, gets the RBI last night. Beautiful chopper. Hey, a little ground ball with eyes, right? We've mentioned things like that before. Nice little chopper there to get into the left field for an RBI. Nice to see that. Then JT Realmuto. He gets a hit as well in this ball game. He entered last night's play. In his last 30 days, 197 with a 197 batting average. That's not good. That's not good. JT Realmuto and Nick Castellanos coming up with some nice hits for the Phillies last night. You love to see it. You absolutely love to see it, especially in a situation where you just want to see a guy give himself an opportunity to try to help the ball club. But Castellanos gets the RBI single. JT Realmuto, just good to see him get a hit. Then Derek Hall is a guy I've talked about a lot as just not ready for Major League pitching. the fact that last night, Derek Hall, I believe, was 0 for 2 against Julio Teheran. Now, I was really hoping that last night would be a night for Derek Hall to really break out of something, okay? Good to see him get a hit. I feel good. Feel great for him that he got a hit. Phenomenal, okay? Julio Teheran. The Milwaukee Brewers are his 4th professional baseball team in the last year. Okay? Let's follow this. In April to June, last year, Staten Island Ferry Hawks. June to August, Toros de Tijuana. I believe that's the Bulls of Tijuana, for those that don't habla Espanol, right? And that's in the Mexican League also. Still professional baseball. August 1st, then, he signed with the Sultanes de Monterrey. Okay? I think that's, I don't even want to try it. Anyway, also Mexican League. Then in November, he signed with the Padres, opted out. Sorry, so that's 4 teams right there. And then he signed with the Milwaukee Brewers. That's 5 teams in just about a year. So I'm thinking, oh, and he also got shelled in his last 2 starts. So I'm thinking, all right, Derek Hall, maybe not ready for big league pitching. Julio Teheran is barely big league pitching. He is almost more recently Mexican League pitching. Maybe this will be a game Derek Hall goes yard again. Maybe this will be a game he gets 2 hits. Ooh, can I get cocky? A multi-hit game for Derek Hall? And unfortunately, no. 0 for. And completely outmatched in his at-bats. That's scary. I am eagerly awaiting. Now, I say all that to tell you that I'm happy that the guy got a hit. He did get a hit last night. So Castellanos, JC Realmuto, and of course, Derek Hall. I'm very happy for those 3 Phillies, okay? But as this Bryce Harper issue at first base just continues to, like, go at molasses pace, I'm getting more and more irritated at the idea of Bryce Harper not being unleashed quite yet. And I know it's an early return from Tommy John surgery. The guy's been out there. He's been throwing. Rob Thompson pointed to yesterday, the reason there's a little bit of a delay here is the idea that Bryce Harper got hit in the elbow right before the All-Star break, that he had the surgery on, so that could delay things. They want to make sure he can be as comfortable as possible. I don't know if he's going to end up playing this Brewers series. I'd love to. I just want to see him there as soon as possible. And I feel like the Phillies are in a holding pattern right now. We got into this yesterday with our conversation with the Inquirer's Alex Coffey. She was kind enough to join us to talk about what everything is depending on at the trade deadline, whether or not Bryce Harper can play first base or not. Because right now, the bar is Derek Hall. The bar wasn't already that high when you talk about Rhys Hoskins playing first base. All right, at the plate, sure, absolutely, that was a nice bar, but at first, not a very high bar. So can you go out there and play a serviceable first base? Can you go out there and throw a ball to second on an attempt to turn a 3-4-3 or 3-4-1 double play? Can you do that and not tweak the elbow? Can you do that and still be healthy? Because here's one thing I want to address that I don't feel like we've talked about enough. When Bryce Harper goes into the field, Bryce Harper's not going to play this like conservative first base. He's going to be, balls to the wall first base. He's going to be like when he hits a slow rolling grounder into, shallow right center field, and I can turn 2 into this. I can to make this into a double. That's how he's going to play first base. He's going to go all out. He's going to see an opportunity to throw a run around at third. Oh, he's going to be thrown across the diamond. So yes, the Phillies will have concern about Bryce Harper and whether or not he can stay healthy with throwing the ball, and whether or not it's going to affect anything in terms of going into next year, whether or not he can play in the outfield again. So if he's not ready, I understand the caution. But what's going to be the difference between throwing him out there in this series and then throwing him out there next week? Like, what's the difference? Did he really mess up something when he got hit in the elbow? I don't know, maybe. But I know the Phillies, they're on the clock with trying to figure out whether or not on this, the 19th of July, with August 1st being the deadline, they're on the clock to know whether or not Bryce Harper can play first. because it's going to affect who they go after, whether or not they're going to make a bid at Cody Bellinger, whether or not they're going to make take a flyer on Paul Goldschmidt, see what they can do with Paul Goldschmidt, whether or not they can get a guy like Juan Soto or Shohei Ohtani. How big can they go? Or the aforementioned Andrew McCutchen. What are we going to do? Aforementioned, it was yesterday, excuse me, that I mentioned that name. But that's where we're at. So the Phillies are on the clock to try to figure this out. And I hope they figure it out sooner rather than later. And you know what? Here. I was looking at it last night. Phillies are going to be in the hunt for an outfielder. I was just looking at some of the veterans that got moved at the deadline last year. Whit Merrifield went to the Blue Jays, if you remember that, from the Royals. He's a guy that I feel like was always mentioned. He's a second baseman, outfielder, right? But playing outfield predominantly, I believe, for the Blue Jays right now. He didn't go for a huge haul. Harrison Bader, St. Louis to the Yankees. He didn't go for a huge haul. Robbie Grossman, Detroit to Atlanta last year, didn't go for a huge haul. Unranked prospects or an unranked prospect. Tommy Pham, not a huge haul. David Peralta, immense. Andrew Benintendi going from KC to the Yankees. That was probably the biggest haul. Veteran outfielders. You're going to be looking at a guy like Andrew McCutchen who's not going to go for a lot. That might fit the Phillies' realm more so than anything. But when you look at a guy like Kyle Schwarber in left, hey, great play yesterday, but I'd still like to see him as a DH. And I know Kyle Schwarber was having fun with people and during his post-game media session where he said, I think I shocked a lot of people because a lot of people don't think I can play left field. Yeah, I don't think you're exactly a gold glover, to put it nicely. But I do. I mean, I love Kyle Schwarber. I just wish he didn't have to play left field. Let's just put it that way. I think that's the most fair way to put it. So we'll see. We're continuing to wait with bated breath, and this whole thing just keeps on dragging along as to whether or not Bryce Harper is going to be in first base in this series, or whether or not we're going to see him there possibly even next week. So we'll cross our fingers for that. Now, Kyle Schwarber had his fourth game last night with a home run. Fourth straight game with a home run. 26 home runs on the season now for Kyle Schwarber. With his fourth straight game with a home run, how about these names that he joins as Philadelphia Phillies since 2012 that have hit home runs in 4 consecutive games? All right. Rhys Hoskins, all right, most recently. Odubel Herrera, he homered in 5 consecutive games in 2018. In 2016, Maikel Franco hit home runs in 4 consecutive games. Ryan Howard hit a home run in 4 straight games back in 2012. All right, so that's not even like prime Ryan Howard. He was able to do that. Now, Rhys Hoskins did it last year in 4 straight games. And he did it in 2017 in 5 straight games. Very interesting now that you have Kyle Schwarber added to this list. And Kyle Schwarber now has 5 home runs. He is on pace to hit more home runs in the month of July than he had in the month of June. So that is something that I absolutely love to see. Kyle Schwarber continues to provide that instant offense. Yeah, continue to get him more at-bats as your leadoff hitter. I don't think many people can argue with that. Put him in that DH role, have him settle into that DH role. And I think that's something that the Phillies will have a lot of success and enjoy a lot of success with. Kyle Schwarber just concentrating on hitting the baseball while somebody else maybe comes in and continues to play left field for this team on a very regular basis. Now, here's what's interesting. We haven't talked about this yet, at least not on this program. We talked about it on the postgame show at Jacob Media there. 2 nights ago, after the Phillies completed their winning 3 of 4 against the San Diego Padres, Bryce Harper addressed the media and was asked about playing first base. Hey, you're expected to play first base in this Milwaukee Brewers series. What do you think about that? He's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to play first base, whatever. But one of the things he said that was interesting to me was, it's not going to be an everyday thing. It's not going to be an everyday thing of you at first base? Like, you mean when you start playing first base, right? It's not going to be an everyday thing. It's not like they're just going to put you out there at first base and say, all right, you're a first baseman now. That I understand. But I would hope that it would work its way up to an everyday thing, right? Otherwise, what are we doing here? We just give it a little bit of flexibility for like once or twice a week, Bryce Harper at first base and Kyle Schwarber as a designated hitter. I would like to think the Phillies defensively, without question, could do better in left field. I know, offensively speaking, the Phillies can't do much better than Kyle Schwarber in terms of his instant offense in the lineup, night in and night out. Look, I know the batting average isn't impressive. I know as of right now, the on-base percentage isn't impressive. But you know what is impressive? Home runs in 4 straight games, 26 home runs to by far lead your team, twice as many home runs as anybody else has on the baseball team. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and keep that in the lineup as much as possible. But what I know is the Phillies can improve in left field right now. Brandon Marsh can play left. Yohan Rojas could be your center fielder. Maybe you're taking a hit with Rojas if he doesn't hit. Christian Pache is not coming back, tomorrow. It's going to be a couple of weeks before we see him out there. So we got to get used to this lineup as it is right now. But if you can make a little tweak, and Kyle Schwarber could be your DH and Bryce Harper could be your regular first baseman, then I think we can welcome that with open arms. And if we can do that sooner rather than later, I think that would help everybody. But if the Phillies keep winning, then that will continue to be the deodorant. No matter how many mistakes they make along the way, if the end of the day ends with a W, then we're all good. Just know that sooner or later, those mistakes are going to, turn around and bite you in the old behind. So I'd like to eliminate the opportunity for mistakes as fast as humanly possible. So if we could do that, I think that'd all be great. And Sam Flood was even on WIP yesterday. And he was talking, Sam Flood was on WIP yesterday. And he was talking about, I think it was on the pregame show with Murph. And he was talking about how, we're waiting. We're waiting for Bryce Harper. And more or less, okay, I'm paraphrasing. Yeah, as soon as Bryce Harper plays first base, when he's able to play first base, that's when we'll know really what we're going to be doing with the rest of the, trade deadline. I do think the Phillies are going to add bullpen help. I don't know who that name is quite yet, but it seems like that's just what you have to do. I really hope they don't end up shipping off one of their top prospects for a rental like David Robertson. I know the trade has come out there with Juan Soto. I think it was FanDuel put the story out there with Juan Soto about potentially bringing in Soto for just about every prospect you've ever heard of with the Phillies. I'm going to go ahead and say no to that. And I'm only going to say no to that for the simple reason that I think you can sign Juan Soto in the offseason. And if you're going to sign Juan Soto in the offseason, and you're going to have Trey Turner, and you're going to have Bryce Harper, and you're going to have those guys for a very, very long time, and add Juan Soto to the mix, and you already have Kyle Schwarber, and you already have Nick Castellanos, guys that aren't necessarily free. And then you're also going to have to sign Bryson Stott, and then we'll see what happens with Alec Boehm. You're going to need to save some money with some prospects along the lines here, along the ways. And as much as I know people will want to look at it and say, oh, you get Juan Soto, you get Shohei Ohtani, and you're going to win the World Series. Plenty of teams have loaded up in the past, and they have fell short. Embarrassingly short. The Padres got Juan Soto last year. And how did that playoffs stretch end for them? Who'd they lose to? Oh, they lost to the Phillies. That's right. That's crazy. Isn't that funny how that worked out? It's really funny. And the Phillies didn't even have Trey Turner at the time. By the way, I do want to acknowledge this. I mentioned Nick Castellanos. I'm happy for him. I've mentioned JT Realmuto. Happy for him. Derek Hall. Very happy to see him get a hit last night. That's always a beautiful thing. That's a nice thing there, right? I wanted to make sure I got this to you guys as well. And hopefully I can find it in my notes here. And unfortunately, my notes don't want to cooperate. Funny how that always happens. Where's it at? It's a little stat on Trey Turner from our friend Todd Zalecki. So Trey Turner had that triple in the third inning last night. He entered last night with a 279 batting average and an on-base percentage of 344 and an OPS of 766 since June 5th. All right, since June 5th. Phillies have been the second best team in baseball since June 1st. Those dates are pretty similar. Those dates are pretty close. Also, Kyle Schwarber since June 2nd. Also getting this from Todd Zalecki. Now, a 226 batting average isn't much worth bragging about, right? And a 316 on-base percentage. But an 833 OPS since June 2nd? Turner and Schwarber turning it on at the right time. Phillies happen to be the second best team in baseball, only to the Atlanta Braves, who just continue to slug. Oh, my goodness gracious. We'll talk about that game, by the way, with the Brewers, the Braves and the Diamondbacks last night. That ended up helping the Phillies in the long run. But, yeah, absolutely insane to see what Trey Turner has done, really, ever since June 5th. And then Kyle Schwarber, the on-base percentage, all that stuff, not great. But the home runs, keep them coming, baby. Keep them coming. Let's move on. Phillies, okay, they get the win last night. Beautiful thing. Craig Kimbrell gets the save. 16 to 16 in the save opportunities. 16 innings now, scoreless innings as well for Craig Kimbrell. So that's nice to see as well. All that's good. We'll get into the Phillies, what they got going on tonight. Christopher Sanchez is going to get the start. We'll talk about that in the morning rush. Let's get into this basketball conversation here, all right? Daryl Morey was on with Anthony Gargano yesterday and talked about a couple things. Let's just talk about this because I think it's going to be a flash in the pan story. Joel Embiid making the comment about winning in Philly or anywhere else. Daryl Morey told Anthony yesterday, we need to make sure that Joel Embiid, one of the best players on earth, has a top running mate. Good. Fine. I hope so too. Does Daryl Morey have confidence that Tyrese Maxey can be that guy? Does Joel Embiid have confidence that Tyrese Maxey can be that guy? Or does Joel Embiid need someone to come into town that has a resume similar to or better than his? Is that the only way Joel Embiid thinks he can win? Is Joel Embiid down for a gap year? And look, I hate the term gap year because you could be getting the best guard that you've had ever play, other than Jimmy Butler, with Joel Embiid. That's what you could have in Tyrese Maxey. He could be better than James Harden. He led the league in assists. Yeah, okay. Can we talk about the playoffs for a second here? Because leading the league in whatever, I don't care. That means you have beat up on a lot of crappy opponents. Now, Joel Embiid's case, he beat up on a two-time MVP, Nikola Jokic, during the regular season. So that is something. But you get to the postseason, I need to see the best possible brand of basketball from you. And you might just have that with Tyrese Maxey. I don't think the Clippers are giving up anybody. Look, once in the NBA, once everybody knows that you got to be traded, it's really hard to pry anything of value from another team. Bradley Beal, you could talk about a couple of guys there. But, Chris Paul wasn't going to be playing for the Wizards, so that's that. So you look at some other guys out there, and you look at some other guys that could be coming to Philadelphia via L.A., and nobody really wows you. The only thing that really wows me is that number one pick, is that 2028 first-round pick from the LA Clippers. And this is what Morey had to say about the potential of trading James Harden. If we don't get either a very good player or something we can turn into a very good player, we're not going to do it. That's what Daryl Morey had to say to Anthony yesterday. And look, if you're a GM, you have to say all that right now. He also talked about how you can't freak out about the NBA roster in the month of July. Okay, fine. But what's the end game here? I don't even feel like I have to mentally prepare myself for not getting much in return for James Harden. You're telling me James Harden's getting traded. I right away jump right to the end of the story, which is you're not going to get a lot back from James Harden. A guy that was once involved in a Ben Simmons trade with Andre Drummond, your best backup center Joel Embiid's ever had. Shout out Paul Reed. Let's get it going this year, baby. Full year. And then you're also trading a guy like Seth Curry, and you're bringing in James Harden. Just 2 years later, you're looking at not even Terrence Mann. That's what you're looking at. You're looking at Marcus Morris. You're looking at a first-round pick in 5 years. You're looking at Robert Covington, Nicholas Batum. That's what you're looking at. That's not a lot. That's not a lot. I don't even have to mentally prepare myself for it. You shouldn't even, as a Sixers fan, have to mentally prepare yourself for it. The second James Harden opted in and cashed the check for $35 million right now and another $5 million when he's traded because of his trade bonus, the guy's getting $40 million for the upcoming year. James Harden's going to get $40 million. When he's traded, he's going to get a total of $40 million. That'll be his roster bonus. Well, his trade bonus. So he's going to have a good year, and you're going to get something in return as opposed to him just walking somewhere else in free agency. And yeah, sure, him getting less money than he would get in the upcoming season. But also, you wouldn't get anything in return. Anything you get for James Harden is gravy. And if he's going to be a malcontent, and Daryl Morey did acknowledge the reports that James Harden does not want to be here. He made that clear. But he also said, yeah, we're not going to trade him for nothing. Yeah, yes. As a matter of fact, factually speaking, you are not trading him for nothing. You will get something in return. I think the key phrase in all this, you can see it right there. For the people on the podcast, I'm putting up Keith Pompey's tweet. Or something we could turn into a very good player. So what does that mean? That means a first-round pick. So when I saw I forget who it was that put the trade out there about what the Sixers could get in return, and Mann was on there, or no, Mann wasn't on there. I'm sorry, Marcus Morris was on there, Robert Covington was on there, and a first-round pick was on there. Done. I'm doing that deal for two reasons. You're getting a first-round pick, albeit down the line, but you can still trade that pick now and get something in return at the upcoming deadline or even before that. So that's an asset. You're giving yourself a year of Tyrese Maxey to see how much he can grow without having to play under a guy like James Harden, and without having to defer to him in the offense, and you be running things a little bit more as a combo guard. That's what I want to see happen in the upcoming season. That's what I'd like to see happen. D'Anthony Melton got a shout out from Morey yesterday as a guy that could potentially go out there and be a starter, go from a bench player to a starter. Maybe you have a guy like Jaden Springer as a defensive specialist off the bench as his offensive game continues to develop. Maybe you go in that route. Then you still have you have a number of centers that could go in at any time, obviously, for Joel Embiid. So you're going to be spelling him, and you're going to have an opportunity there to maybe have a center play the power forward position a little bit for you as well. Hopefully you have a guy like Tobias Harris step forward offensively speaking with Nick Nurse, something I've laid out many times before. But you're not going to get a top return on the investment of James Harden. That's just something I think a lot of people have to come to grips with. And I think people have wild fantasies about what you can get in return. I don't want the distraction. I was going to say two things there. Mention one, you're already getting an asset back in the first round pick, assuming the Clippers are going to part ways with the first round pick. So you get that in return. The other thing you get is you alleviate the headache. You alleviate the distraction. And if you don't believe in that, then there's a third thing here. You know what you do? You give your team more time to play together. You don't start the season with the James Harden, you don't start the season with the Joel Embiid, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey Sixers. You start the season with the Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey Sixers. I'd rather do that than have Harden at the start of the year, play with him for a month or two, and then he gets dealt. And then you got to start over again. How are you going to work with these new pieces to the puzzle? I'd rather just start out with the 1-2 punch of Embiid and Maxey and move on from there. But make no mistake about it, the Sixers have a problem. Forget about reports now. It's been said from the general manager, I keep on saying GM officially, the president of basketball operations for the 76ers, Daryl Morey. I think technically Elton Brand's the GM. But Daryl Morey has acknowledged there is a problem with James Harden. It's not just reports. It's not just speculation. There's a problem. I don't like problems. I like solutions. And I think the best possible solution is the Sixers to trade James Harden before the season starts. Because guess what? The prices are going to go up as the season goes on. If you're waiting for that moment of somebody else getting hurt, a real contender, well, it's even going to be early enough in the season where I don't even think those real contenders are going to be given top dollar for a guy like James Harden. And plus, I'd rather just alleviate the pressure, alleviate the problem as soon as humanly possible. That's where I'm at right now on the Sixers. Let's get into football, ladies and gentlemen. Next week, training camp, South Philadelphia, NovaCare Complex. It all gets fully underway next week. ESPN talked to executives, they talked to coaches throughout the NFL about their top quarterbacks, right? Jalen Hurts came ranked in at number 6. The only counter argument with Jalen Hurts is that he has not done it long enough. That's the only counter argument. The people that want to talk about another negative, they want to talk about this as if it's a negative, is he runs too much. All right. I had this conversation with my old friend Hunter Brody yesterday, as a matter of fact. I'll be on his show in the coming weeks. But Brodes and I got into this conversation yesterday. And it has to do with Dallas Goedert giving his quarterback a couple of days ago on the Pardon My Take podcast, where I think he talked about the moon landing, the slippery football field that was the Super Bowl, this past Super Bowl. And he also talked about Jalen Hurts as a top 2 quarterback in the NFL. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And it's not necessarily a recency bias, but it's just what makes sense. If you're starting your team tomorrow, there's Patrick Mahomes and there's Jalen Hurts. And there's Joe Burrow. I have him up there as well. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is still a guy that'll get a lot of praise. No question about that. But for me, I look at these quarterbacks. Josh Allen still gets a lot of praise. No question about that. But for me, it's a 1-2 punch in the NFL right now between Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. And I have Patrick Mahomes as number 1. And I think that is undisputed. And then I have Jalen Hurts as number 2. And the only reason that is disputed is because he hasn't done it for long enough. The people that talk about him as a running quarterback, I think, are missing the point. Yes, I would like to see him run less. I would like him to be better protected. And yes, I understand that a lot of the quarterback injuries, most of the quarterback injuries happen within the pocket. But if you could refrain from taking a big hit outside the pocket, I would really love to see my quarterback do that. Whether it's slide more, because he does slide, whether that's get out of bounds more, because he does get out of bounds, or that's get rid of the football faster in terms of those scramble plays where he'll just throw it away and live to fight another day, live to fight another down, which he does do, but do it more often. You know what these 3 things are? Improvements. That's it. We talked about Jalen Hurts going into last year. Improving on the deep ball, improving on the accuracy of the deep ball. He did that this past year. We talked about Jalen Hurts being more clutch. I know it wasn't exactly a big game on the schedule, but that 4th quarter against Indianapolis, where your defense was holding it down for 3 quarters, and Jalen Hurts basically said, as an offense, yeah, we're done with this. Let's get it going here. Okay? We're going to win this game. And they were a totally different offense in that 4th quarter. And Jalen Hurts did what he wanted to do in that 4th quarter against the Colts. And he helped get that win for Nick Sirianni to help avenge the firing of Frank Reich. You know, I thought that was clutch. In Arizona against the Cardinals before that game-winning drive by, what was it? Cameron? What the hell was the kicker's name? Blanking. But he set up the field goal. He started calling audibles, checkdowns to those bubble screens. A little too much for my liking, but it got the job done. He helped engineer a game-winning drive. Those are clutch things that you want to see your quarterback do throughout a season. And Jalen Hurts, here's what he's done. There aren't many quarterbacks in the NFL that you could look at and say, oh, it's the 4th quarter, it's a close game, we have a chance to win. Or it's not even a close. Maybe you're down 2 touchdowns, and it's 4th quarter. We still got a chance to win because we have Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback. Or I have Jalen Hurts as my quarterback. Or I have Joe Burrow as my quarterback. Or I have Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback. Or I got Josh Allen as my quarterback. Those are guys right there you can look at and say, there's not many in the NFL. Maybe at most a handful of 5. But Jalen Hurts is one of those guys. That is not questioned. Whether or not you have a chance to win because Jalen Hurts is your quarterback. You have that chance to win late in the game. If it's a 2-score game, and it's in the 4th quarter, Jalen Hurts is your quarterback, you got a shot. And it feels damn good to say that on a quarterback that plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. So the only thing that you can really say to Jalen Hurts right now, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to play with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, and this guy is always looking to play with a chip on his shoulder, and this guy has a lot of motivation. If he needs more motivation after being an all-pro quarterback, if he needs more motivation after being a Super Bowl quarterback, if he needs more motivation after being a guy that people still doubt, if he needs more motivation and all that, after being a runner-up for the MVP award, if he needs more motivation than that, then here it is. Do it again. Do it again. Some of the most successful people on the planet, they still have that voice in the back of their heads, which is a big motivating factor for a lot of them. You're still just a fraud. You're still just a fraud. That was a fluke. You're not this good. You don't deserve this. That my inner monologue voice is a lot like my people on the podcast voice, but it's less of the Harvard accent and more of just being a jerk. It's more demonic is what it is. So yeah, Jalen Hurts, go. Hey, the world is your oyster right now. Go have another oyster. And the fact that it's not just ESPN doing the ranking in this particular poll, it's NFL executives and all that jazz. I don't like that. I don't like it one bit. Let me tell you, what I do like? Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. For over 40 years, Steven's been in the love business in Philadelphia, helping people get engaged and fall in love. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, the perfect price, online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Ladies and gentlemen, go to the other corner of 8th and Walnut. Take care of that perfect price. You know what that perfect price is? Well, other jewelers are market things way up just to see if you'll negotiate and haggle and, try to mark it down a little bit. No. Steven Singer, you don't have to work for it. Steven Singer Jewelers, you get that perfect price right from jump. Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut. How about the amazing people at Freestone Farm CBD, FreestoneFarmCBD.com. You'll love their tropical tasting Bayox that clocks into the chart topping 24.1%, and Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. So try Freestone Farm CBD at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. That's FreestoneFarmCBD.com. How about Manscaped, the leader in below-the-waist grooming? Join 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and their skin-safe technology that helps reduce the risk of nicks, so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. So check out Manscaped at Manscaped.com. How about the amazing people at PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsStation.com. Let's get to the chat check and see how you people are doing on this fine morning. Sean Gillespie, Sean Kilrain, Antonio Adolfus, Antonio, welcome. Good morning. Sean Gillespie, disrespect will make Hurts more powerful. It's like disrespect going to Thanos' glove. Sean Gillespie, I don't disagree. Sean Kilrain, all I have to say is Hurts is going to make them eat their words with how he plays in my eyes. You agree, Farzy? It's Hurts season. Oh, I agree. I know Marcus Hayes, friend of the show, friend of mine, took a lot of heat. When he said Jalen Hurts is the most insecure athlete. You can argue over the adjective, but my take on it was, don't we want all our athletes to be insecure? Don't we always want them striving to be better? Oh, I can lose my job tomorrow. I want to make sure I have my job. I love that chip on his shoulder. And yeah, you could say, oh, insecure was a strong word, but I don't think it's inaccurate. I mean, you can talk about a textbook definition of insecure. No, he is a very confident person. But when it comes to how serious he takes his craft, I feel like Jalen Hurts feels like Marcus Mariota could take his job. Somebody else right behind me, they want to take this job. I want my quarterback thinking like that. Because, the last time we had a quarterback that was actually really insecure and couldn't handle it, that was Carson Wentz. But Jalen Hurts does it in a way that only makes him a better player. When you only use it as motivation, like, for instance, if the Eagles, would have brought back Nick Foles under Carson Wentz, I think Carson Wentz just would have, spontaneously combusted. I just think he just would have, he's just gone. It's like, I guess Foles is our starter now again? Okay, fine. But with Jalen Hurts, I feel like he'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, fine. Let's go. Now, that's confidence. That's not insecurity. But I don't think he would have crumbled. And I think he also would have thought, all right, well, this is the guy that's going to do it. I'm going to work harder to make sure he's not the guy that does it. That sounds a little bit more like confidence than it does insecurity. But I understand the point. We want our athletes to feel like, oh, this could all be done tomorrow. We want our athletes to think everything's a Super Bowl, everything's a Game 7. Jalen Hurts plays like that. You can call it insecurity. I'll tell you this much. Whatever you want to call it, I never want my quarterback resting on his laurels. I never want him feeling like, oh, this is my job to keep forever. No one can take it away. No, you know what? If you need a little bit of insecurity with it, go for it. Go for it. But no, I do think it's going to be Hurts season. Antonio, he will just keep working and improving. I concur. Sean Kilrain, hungry dogs run faster. That's our motto. Nobody likes us. We don't care. I concur. April, good morning, April. How about those fightins? I'm excited. I'm very excited. about the fighting Phils. Phillies are on a mission now, says PJ. I agree. Sean Gillespie. Hopefully, knock on wood, Nola can just stay out of his own head. Maybe he just needed a break. Hey, good morning, A. Fuji. What's up, Fuji? Mullet Alvarado, what's going on? Miguel Sanchez. Schwarber, we must have known he's getting demoted to DH. He'd be like, I can play left field. A win is a win. Bullpen help is key. Preserve our recovering farm system. I agree with that. Sean Kilrain, I see them going after one of the Cardinals relievers. Hicks, okay. See him coming. Hopefully, Arenado too, coming here as well. I'd love to see Nolan Arenado. I love Alec Boehm, but if you can get Nolan Arenado, done. The other thing with Nolan Arenado is that $15 million that are left on his deal over the 3 years, $15 million of that is paid by the Rockies. Now, I doubt the Cardinals would also be paying part of his money as well. But if you could get him at a huge discount paid by other clubs, that is a huge break for the Phillies. That is a ginormous break for the Phillies. That's fantastic. Sean Gillespie, I agree. Just not a Carson Wentz level of insecurity. I agree. Oh, yeah, PJ. Andrew Painter. That's rough. April says she thought of PJ when the Painter news came out yesterday. So Andrew Painter's not pitching in the big leagues this year, folks. I know in spring training when he did throw and after when everything was just kind of like meandering around, news not coming out about what was going to happen with Andrew Painter, and then Dave Dombrowski be like, oh, well, we're still confident Andrew Painter will pitch at some point this season. I was like, what was that? At some point this season? What, a September call-up? No, that's not even going to happen. Hasn't faced live batters since the injury. It's easy to say because it's not me. It's easy to say because it's not us. If it's Tommy John surgery, get the surgery, Andrew Painter. Get the surgery. Be back in the bigs in 2 years. He'll be 22 years old, hopefully pitching with great regularity, great consistency, and hopefully that'll be the case that you'll be out there and you'll be pitching great. What else do we have here? It's a shame. Looking forward to seeing Andrew Painter pitch next year, or pitching this year, I guess next year, hopefully next year. Yep, I think you have the right attitude there, PJ. Just want him to be great. In hindsight, he probably should have just gotten the surgery when it happened in spring training. Probably. Wouldn't be surprised if the Phillies end up with either Randall Grichuk or Tommy Pham. Ooh. Tommy Pham, huh? Interdivisional trade? What else do we got here? I wish we got the surgery. I wish you got the surgery too. Yeah, I agree, April. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys are wonderful as per usual. Let's get to the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motor Cars, SkyMotorCars.com. Let's start with a viral comment from Patrick Mahomes, ladies and gentlemen. Patrick Mahomes. Now, have you seen this new show, Quarterbacks, on Netflix? If you have, hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you like it. I'm going to start watching this program, especially because of this whole thing going on with Patrick Mahomes. Apparently, he told, not apparently, he did, during the show, he told Patrick Mahomes told Jalen Hurts at the Super Bowl media night that he got an Airbnb for the Super Bowl 3 weeks. Excuse me. Hold on. Checks notes. 3 months before the Super Bowl. Now, there's a couple of things to take from this. One, you jump to the conclusion that Patrick Mahomes is the most confident man on the planet, where he thought, we're still going to make the Super Bowl 3 months before the Super Bowl, and he booked an Airbnb. You could say that. Or you could say that either way, Patrick Mahomes is going to the Super Bowl. Now, I know most people are reading it as, Patrick Mahomes 3 months before the Super Bowl thought they were making the Super Bowl. Or you could also be a little bit more logical about it, which is Patrick Mahomes is going to the Super Bowl. He might not be playing in the Super Bowl, but he's going to the Super Bowl. Endorsement deals, sponsorships, he's going to the Super Bowl. Just like regardless, I think Jalen Hurts is going to the Super Bowl this year. He might not. Hey, look, I've gone to a Super Bowl. I've gone to 4 of them, as a matter of fact. How about that, huh? Who's bragging now? But I wasn't playing in the Super Bowl. See my point? So I don't think it's that big a deal. I know it's a viral thing that everyone's interpreting as, he thought he was so good. We're just going to make it. First off, yes, Patrick Mahomes, yeah, you can go ahead and do it. You're pretty damn good. But bottom line is, logistically speaking, go ahead and get that. Go ahead and get that Airbnb for yourself as early as possible because you're going to the Super Bowl. You might not be playing in the Super Bowl, but you're going. Hell, 65,000 people went to the Super Bowl last year. Anyway, doesn't mean necessarily that they're going to be playing. Beep. PJ, I didn't see that. Max Scherzer willing to waive the no-trade clause? Right, all right, let's party. Got another arm in here. Why not? Let's have some good times. Phillies back at it. They go for 5 wins in a row tonight when the Phillies take on the Milwaukee Brewers in Game 2 of their 3-game series. Phillies go for their 5th win in a row. Phillies will also see if that fella Kyle Schwarber can have back-to-back games with spectacular catches in the outfield. If he's in the outfield, maybe he's a DH. Maybe Bryce Harper's at first tonight after all that rigmarole I gave you in the beginning of the show. But yes, Phillies go for it tonight with Christopher Sanchez on the hill. He'll be opposed by Colin Ray, I believe it is, of the Brewers in tonight's game. Another 6:40 start time in South Philadelphia. Colin Ray does get the start for the Brewers. He is 5-4 with a 4.71 ERA. He is coming off a start against the Cincinnati Reds where he allowed 5 runs on 7 hits in just 4 2/3 innings of work. He struck out 7. Prior to that, it was 6 2/3 of 2-run baseball and 5 hits against the Pittsburgh Pirates. So we'll see if Christopher Sanchez can outduel the righty Colin Ray, the veteran righty Colin Ray, in tonight's ball game. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Make sure you guys click subscribe, like, and all that fun stuff as well. Jim Hyder produced the program. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Be back with you guys tonight on the Jacob Media YouTube channel for Fighting's post-game show. And, of course, be back with you guys tomorrow morning as well. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. See you.